Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our CPAR Connect meeting. We're here to talk to you today about the Acceleration Grant. We'll give you an overview and have a Q&A period. So we'll start off with a CI-CPAR may be new to some of you on the call. We'll start off by giving a quick overview of what is CI-CPAR and why is it so important that you've taken time out of your precious lunch hour to meet with us today. We'll also talk about the detailed Acceleration Grant. I know a lot of people on the call are probably interested to hear about the payments, who, when, and how much. We'll definitely get into that. And then we'll leave ample time for questions and answers at the end. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shirley.
Hey, so I'm going to start us out with what is CI-CPAR. We know many of you in the audience here might be quite familiar with it by now, but always a good refresher, especially when many of you may be disseminating information out and helping us share the message. So go to the next slide there. So CII-CPAR stands for Community Information Integration and Central Patient Attachment Registry. This was really requested by physicians, developed at the request of physicians, and that's part of why we have a big acronym behind it. So people always wonder about that. The CII component really came out of a request from non-family medicine specialists, and the CPAR component was asked for by family medicine. And so the two projects were joined. They have some overlap, and that's CI-CPAR. It's really what allows two-way patient information flow between Alberta Netcare and a clinic's electronic medical record in the community. So a helpful thing to picture here, especially when there's so much buzz about the rollout of Connect Care, is a triangle, with Alberta Netcare being the top of that triangle. So everyone doing work within AHS is on Connect Care or is moving on to Connect Care. That's where their information is captured, and that's one base of the triangle. And there's two-way communication going up to Alberta Netcare on that side. But the other side of that foundation is all the work that happens in community clinics, in individual electronic medical records, and that's where we need CII-CPAR. That's the joining arm on the other side of the triangle to get that information up into Alberta Netcare and have some information coming back into that clinic electronic medical record. So the CII component of this is really about sending select information from that community EMR up to Alberta Netcare. This can be consult letters, so especially for our non-family medicine specialists, this is the main component they're participating in. So consult letters to go into the consultations folder in Netcare. It also, for those participating in the encounters component, is pulling information about encounters happening in the community, things like visit reasons, physician assessment, vitals, immunizations, all that good information getting pulled to populate what's called the Community Encounter Digest. And that's in a community reports folder in Netcare. That's the CII component, and then CPAR is really what allows us to identify that relationship between patients and their primary provider. So that means in Netcare, under a patient's profile, you'd be able to see who their primary provider is right within Netcare. And it also is the backbone that allows e-notifications to come back into that clinic's EMR. So overall, that's enhancing communication across the province. It's really improving that continuity of care between the patient's medical home and that broader health neighborhood. So go to the next slide. We just wanted to touch on a few milestones. So there's a lot of progress happening within the project. We have 448 clinics that are now live on CII-CPAR. That includes 1,327 CPAR providers, which means that over 1 million patients in the province are on a CPAR panel, and therefore in Netcare have their primary provider showing up for others on the healthcare team to see. We have 391 non-family medicine community specialists involved in CI-CPAR, 8.6 million encounters. So that's that information I was talking about coming into the Community Encounter Digest, 8.6 million in the province. And then there's 631,000 consult reports up into Netcare as a result of CII. And not only are they getting there, we have great data about how much they're being viewed. So March alone, there was over 70,000 consult report viewings within Netcare, and that's up 16% from 6 months prior. So it's growing. That's closing gaps in the province because more people, more providers are coming on board with CII CPAR. Move into a few of the benefits of CII CPAR. And I, again, touched on a few of these already, but if we go to the next slide, again, this is really about connecting your community clinic EMR to the rest of the healthcare system. So that great information isn't just stuck in a silo. Few things are important here. We want to remind people that patients actually often assume this is already happening. So even back in 2017, there was a great study in Alberta, and when provided an overview of what CII CPAR is, the majority, over 70% of patients thought that this was already happening. What CII was planning to do, they thought that already existed even in 2017. So CII CPAR allows other providers to follow the recommended plan of care. So again, you can see other information from those providers that are touching a patient and all work together to support kind of the goals of the care goals that are established. Information across the whole province, so that helps support patients when they're maybe traveling in their health journey. They have to go to a different zone to visit a specialist, for example. And timely access to information. So depending on the specific EMR, it's sometimes real-time uploads that are happening from encounter data or consult reports going up. Or up to 48 hours, kind of at the most. So it's getting into Netcare in a really timely way so that people can start trusting that the information's there that they need. There's no cost to participate. We always like to emphasize that. I already mentioned about adding the primary provider in Netcare. All of this, again, is improving continuity of care for patients. So I'm going to pass it over to Robert because I know many of you are eager to hear about the Acceleration Grant.
Great, thanks, Shirley. So yes, we're going to start about what the Acceleration Grant is, and then we're going to get into who's eligible and what the payment structure is going to look like. So some quick highlights. This grant was part of the 2022 physician agreement signed between and the AMA. Basically earmarked about $12 million to incent the CII CPAR uptake for eligible family medicine and non-family medicine physicians. So the idea is kind of to compensate physicians for their time and the administrative requirements to enroll and participate in CII CPAR. Although we like to remind everyone that the actual administrative requirements are not that heavy. Especially once you're already alive on CII CPAR, it's mostly autopilot from that part forward. So we don't want you to think it's a big administrative burden, because it certainly isn't. But we still want to recognize that work and make sure people are compensated for it. So that's part of the $12 million rationale. It is on a first come, first serve basis, meaning that there's not quite enough money in the $12 million to pay every single eligible family physician. And part of the rationale for that is that we don't expect 100% uptake. We would love 100% uptake, but we don't expect it to happen, or at least not happen anytime soon. So there's enough to pay most physicians that are eligible for these incentive payments, but we are going to prioritize those who went live first, just to make sure people are signing up soon. So all the more reason not to delay and try to go live as soon as possible. Some additional payment details. So these incentive payments will be available for people who are new to CII CPAR and just recently signing up and going live, but also physicians that have been live on CII CPAR for a while. They're both of these groups are eligible. So how we're going to actually manage these payments. So Alberta Health already has good data on who is live on CII CPAR, so they will know who is eligible for these payments. And the AMA already has structures in place. Thank you, Ali and team, to deliver payments directly to physicians. So all this means that you don't really have to do anything. You or your staff or your physicians do not have to do anything in order to be eligible for these grants. You don't have to apply for anything or submit anything. We will kind of hear from who's eligible, and then the AMA will handle the payments. Information about how the payments will be received will be available in the member dashboards at the AMA website. It's not available just yet. but it will be available probably in the coming weeks. We don't expect payments to start actually flowing until probably this summer, so don't log in today and start looking for that yet, but information will be available on your member dashboard coming soon. So we talk about eligible physicians. Who is actually eligible? So you must meet all the following criteria in order to be eligible. So the payment structure, it's going to be 2 payments for most cases. So the first payment is when you actually go live on CI-CPAR. So this is going to be a $1,000 payment for the first time sees that you're submitting any kind of data to CI-CPAR, meaning that you've done the confirmation of participation letter, you've gone through all the other processes required to help you get on board and signed up. And once they see you're live, everyone will receive the same $1,000 payment just to recognize you're live on CI-CPAR now. Just a great first step. The second payment generally comes after has indicated that they've seen at least 3 months of data submitted to CI-CPAR. Now, the second payment is going to differ depending on what type of data you're submitting through CI-CPAR. So if you are submitting panel and encounter information, so this is mostly family medicine specialists, they will receive a one-time payment of $1,600 for that's after 3 months of submitting patient panel and encounter data. If you're submitting encounter data only, which is mostly applicable, for example, for like a walk-in clinic, they might not carry a panel of patients, but they do want to submit encounter information through a CI-CPAR, those physicians will receive a payment of $750. For other people who are only submitting consult reports, let's say most non-family medicine specialists working in the community, they will receive a one-time payment of $1,000. The idea of the difference of these payments was to recognize that some of these require more effort, more administrative burden than others. So we just wanted to recognize that in the payment structure. I'll give a few more details in a second, but important to note here that if you are submitting, let's say, consult reports at one of your practices and paneling and encounters at another one, you will receive the higher of those 2 payments. So in all cases, whichever one is applicable and also the highest, that's the one-time payment you will receive after we see the 3 months of data being submitted. So some additional details. Physicians often work in multiple clinics. We recognize that. We encourage you all to sign up for CI-CPAR at all your clinics. That would be fantastic if it's appropriate. But just keep in mind, you'll only be eligible for a single enrollment payment. So the first time you go live, generally, that's the one you're going to receive the $1,000 payment for. And a single data submission payment. So again, if you have one subspecialty clinic where you're submitting consults, but you have a regular family practice where you're submitting panels and encounters, you receive the higher of those payments. You'll get the panel and encounter submission payment every 3 months. And kind of in the same vein, physicians cannot receive multiple data submission payments. You'll just receive the highest value payment. I think I already covered that. For those submitting panels and consults, there are a couple of other criteria to make sure you're eligible for these payments. This is kind of to put a bit of a quality metric on these initiatives. So for those submitting panels, you must have a panel administrator assigned to your panel. This is an important step because we want to make sure that people are not just sending up panel information, but you're actually actively managing your panel. And the first step in doing that is having a panel administrator assigned to all your panels. If you have questions about that, we're going to put our email address at the end. We can help you get a panel administrator set up, or you can ask your clinic staff, PCN staff, if it's already done. And then you also must be submitting panels of a minimum patient size. So for pediatricians, it's a panel of at least 50 patients. And for family medicine specialists and general practitioners, it's a panel size of at least 200 patients. And finally, for those submitting consults, we're going to be looking over the last 3 months and make sure that you've submitted at least 30 consult reports up to Netcare through CI-CPAR over the previous 3-month period.
Thanks, Robert. So I just thought I'd quickly review the prerequisites to go live for those of you who are not live yet. So first of all, you must be using a conformed EMR. So those are the EMRs that we shared earlier. So that includes Accuro, QHR, HealthQuest, TELUS. They've now got 4 products because CHR just was conformed this month, in addition to their MedAccess, PS Suite, and Wolf. And then we know that AVA is coming soon. And for those who work at the primary care clinics within AHS and they're using Connect Care for primary care clinics, Connect Care is an eligible EMR as well. You have to be live or willing to go live on Netcare. Again, we need to, that's where the information is being connected to. So that is a separate process, but again, can be done in parallel at the same time as you're signing up for CII CPAR. And a lot of the requirements are the same. So an up-to-date PIA helps with that as well, which is the third point on the list. PIAs, if you've switched your EMR or something like that, it may need an amendment. And we have some resources that can help with that, which I'll just share in just a second. And for those clinics that have a panel, you're doing the CPAR component, we want to make sure that those panels are high quality. So there is panel readiness resources available from your PCN if you're a member from the PCN, as well as through the AMA. So we can help get you connected with those if needed. So as I mentioned, sometimes getting a PIA up to date can feel like a daunting task. So we're really fortunate to be able to share with you a list of privacy consultants that are offering a special CII CPAR rate until the end of September to help with advance this important work across the province and help with our acceleration. So if you've submitted a confirmation of participation form and you are informed that you need a minor amendment, that will cost $249. And if you need a major amendment, it's $499. These are phenomenal savings. It's a great partnership that we were able to leverage between these private consultants. You can hire them. There's tips on and advice on the website, as this list is not vetted, but we can add that to the chat. It's all available on the AMA website. And on to our next slide. Now Michael's been sitting here so quietly. I wanted to make sure he could have the last word before we jump into questions and talk about the future of CII CPAR and Netcare development. So Michael, over to you.
Thanks, appreciate that, Crystal. So just a quick notice about where we're heading in the future and what we're currently working on. We are working with other jurisdictions across the country and nationally and internationally on bringing the patient summary forward for Alberta. This is Canada's version of the international patient summary. This is already a well-documented and well-used standard internationally, especially in Europe and in America. We are one of two provinces that's pushing this forward. It's Alberta and Ontario that are leading the way for Canada to try to get this implemented. One of our vendors, everybody knows HealthQuest and MicroQuest, they did participate in a recent set of work, as well as TELUS, to try to connect up to the systems as quickly as possible to get this up and running. And that went very, very well. It's a national effort to get vendors on board. So we're very excited about that, and we're hoping to have that up I'm not going to give a date, but sometime in the near future to get some of those pieces running. The other part that's really important I want to mention here is that CII CPAR will also be the foundation for electronic referral here in Alberta. So we have started work already on electronic referral. A lot of you are probably aware of the FAST offices and central access and triage that's being implemented. What we want to do is give you the ability to sit in your EMR and send in those referrals electronically, track progress as it goes through, find out what's happened, and then close the loop and have data flow back to you. So that's all being worked on right now. There is also a national effort around electronic referral that's going to be getting underway as well. I just got off the phone with Ontario and British Columbia. Lots of interest in these pieces going forward. And the last piece I'll just mention here is just want to position where Alberta is compared to the other provinces in Canada around data flowing from primary care. We lead the country. It's you folks that are leading the country in getting the information flowing up. This is not something that's widely available across the country. It's one of those areas where Alberta is the leader, and we are looking forward to working with you on continuing that lead and expanding it to other areas that are useful for yourselves and for the patients going forward. So thank you very much, Crystal. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Michael, for sharing that. I think it's so interesting to have that national perspective and see how far we have come, and in terms of the data and how much is going forward and the new evolution. So we know what CII CPAR is today, but CII CPAR will only be getting better and better with time, and that's really exciting development to see. So that is the end of our official presentation. We're now happy to answer any questions. Team that's been monitoring the chat, is there any from there that we wanted to start with? Well, and if there's anybody who wants to ask in person, feel free to come off your mic and ask that way too. So I'm just scrolling through the chat. Did we answer what the difference is between a panel information and encounter information? Yeah, okay, I see some head nods. Okay, so panel information. So that's the CPAR piece, Central Patient Attachment Registry. That's where you use your EMR to say, these are the patients I'm their primary provider for. That goes up to Netcare and shows up on their Netcare profile. The encounters are like little snapshots. So there's certain fields in each EMR that are pulled into the community encounter digests. It's that snapshot of the care they got. So it's quite brief information, typically like, Crystal was seen by Dr. Smith today regarding hypertension. If there was allergies or immunizations, or they checked my blood pressure, that additional information. So it's not your entire EMR that's being shared up to Netcare, just those select fields. And we have data mapping diagrams that can show you which fields go from your EMR if there's any questions about that, and that's available on our website. And if you email us, we're happy to provide you a specific link to it if needed.
Hey, Crystal, it's Erin from Edmonton O'Damon PCN. Just quick question for you. I just want to make sure I'm really clear in my mind. So these payments are for the medical doctors signed up only. Is that because it's an agreement with AMA? So nurse practitioners, allied healthcare practitioners will not be receiving payments. So if as a PCN we've connected some of our programs that are, nursing or whatever, we should not expect payments for those.
Through this program, yes, because
Okay.
this grant was part of the AMA deal that was ratified in September 22. It is just for physicians. The other allied health professionals may have agreements set up through Alberta Health. Michael, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you summarized it. For right now, it's really limited to physicians because of the AMA agreement.
Thank you.
Great question, Erin. I'm sure others on the call had a similar question. Any other questions that you've heard over the last week that you maybe haven't been able to answer? We do have the webpage available. We do have the info sheet available that hopefully covers most of those common questions.
There's a question in the chat, Crystal, around how do physicians claim funding. If you've submitted your panel to Alberta Health, it's an automatic. The AMA will receive a file, and then we will make those payments. We will be providing information, or once the program is up and running, and just before we start issue payments, to allow physicians to select a method of payment, so they'll be able to select whether or not they want to check or upload a bank account number.
Thanks, Allie, for sharing that. Yes, we wanted to make this as light of touch for the clinics as possible. Your call to action today is to go and get signed up at CII-CPAR. Leave the payment processing information to us. Alberta Health will give AMA a list of all the physicians that are live on CII-CPAR, and then AMA, Ali, and his team will be processing the payments. It's going to be processed like other member payments that have been generated from the grant. So hopefully we have a really slick process once we're able to implement those payments that we anticipate will be coming in the summer. And more details about that will be provided by President's letter and other communication from Ali and his team.
There was another one in the chat around a retired physician. Yeah, so as long as you've met the criteria at some point, and it's a first in, first out. So if you're on the file, you'll receive the payment. Your status as a retired physician is not one of the eligibility criteria.
Michael, anything else you want to add to that?
Just that we are running the stats as of right now. So it's people that are on right now. So as Ali mentioned, you might be retired right now, but you'll be eligible as long as we have the data to validate that part.
Hello, hi, thank you. I'm Rakesh Patel. I'm in the South Calgary Primary Care Network. Several of our clinics, including ours, are transferring EMRs this year. Wolf is becoming obsolete and we're moving to a new EMR. That may cause a temporary blip in our attachment figures. How's that going to reflect the funding if it's moving forward on a 3-month basis?
Great question, Michael.
I'll answer that. Great, and Rakesh, it's nice to see you as well. It's a good question. I know a lot of you are switching over this year. We're not doing something where it has to be the immediate 3 months. We're looking for any 3 months going backwards. So if you happen to do a month here, there's a small break, and then you've got 2 more months when you get switched over, that'll work. We're just looking to make sure that we can validate it's being used on an ongoing basis. So any 3 months that line up, we'll be able to make it work for you.
Michael, can I just clarify? Is that any 3 months within a 12-month period, or the last 12-month period, or how does that work?
It's a good question. Right now, the way we have we've got this process written up is we take a look at the current month. We look back for the last 12 months to see if there's 3 months that meet our requirements. If the 3 months are in there, we give you the payment for that. And just to mention, I'll just mention this: if we find that that's not working going forward, we're willing to take a look at these things where this is the first kick at the program.
Thank you.
So as part of our the grant agreement, Alberta Health and AMA will be reviewing the program at least every 6 months. So again, if we come across these more edge cases or unique situations, then it gives us an opportunity to have that discussion and see if we need to make any amendments at that time.
Hi, Crystal. Just Jason from Sherwood Park, PCN. Just for clinics that have multiple physicians that are participating, would each of those physicians be eligible for payment, or would it be just one payment for the clinic?
No, it's per physician. So each physician will receive payment. So if you have a large clinic, that can be multiple physicians receiving multiple payments, which can definitely help the financial situation that we know so many family practices are in.
There's
Thanks.
one that I think might not have been answered. I'll just repeat it here. Just to clarify, is there a way to mask selective information like patients presenting complaints and only share the rest, like assessment, vitals, and vaccination history?
Perfect.
Just typed that one out, Katie. So,
Shirley, you can answer that question then.
Share it quickly verbally. Yes, once the provider is really learning what fields are mapped to the community encounter digest, that's the easiest way to still send some data. But if you want some data to remain confidential, or the patient does, putting it into any of the fields that is not mapped to submit to Netcare is the easiest way to still capture that in your own EMR, but know that it's not getting sent to Netcare. There's also ways to make the whole encounter confidential and not get sent up at all to Netcare, but that's usually what we recommend if the provider wants some data to go, but not all of it.
And if patients are really concerned, they can also max their entire Netcare profile so that anytime a provider accesses their record, it automatically there's an additional security step where you have to consent to saying, yes, I do actually want to look at this record, if that is the comfort that they're seeking with. But that process is through Netcare, and there's a form that has to be filled out. But again, if that is an option that's available to patients. And a lot of this questions and content is available. We have some fantastic courses available on Learn at AMA that talks through how to send the consult reports, how to put your panels in depending on which EMR so that you've got the right statuses selected and it flows to CPAR. So if you're looking for additional information and you're not already signed up for the Learn at AMA platform, I would highly encourage that as well.
Hi, it's Robert Antonessa with Vivo Cura Health. As we just started the initiative, actually, we're going to start going live, I believe, as of next week. Are we able to retroactively put some of our consult reports from the beginning of the year onto Netcare? And if so, does that kind of qualify for the funding?
Great question, Robert. We get this from many non-family medicine specialists. So you can only go from the date you go live forward. There's unfortunately not a retroactive piece, but your time of consult submission will count starting the day you go live and the 3 months forward. So your physicians that go live, they would be eligible for the first payment right away. And then the 3-month data submission of consult reports in your clinic, they would get that 3 months later.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Sorry, I'm sure this question has been answered, but just to clarify, so for physicians that have been on CII-CPAR for like over a year now or quite some time, they will get paid as well, right?
Absolutely. So the 3 months, again, as Michael mentioned, it looks back at the last 12 months. And so if your physicians are live right now and they have been live for over 3 months, then on that first report that Alberta Health generates, we're it'll show that, yes, they get the enrollment payment and they also get the data submission.
Great, thank you.
Yes, making sure that we didn't just incent new physician participation in CII CPAR was a really fundamental piece of the grant criteria that we wrote up. We wanted to recognize the great work that physicians have already done across the province, but then also incent new participation going forward. So new and those already existing was a really important piece for us. Didn't want to penalize the early adopters by any stretch.
Definitely not. There is another question possibly for, I'm not sure if we have the answer to this. So with regard to notification of how to receive payment, would I go to the physician's email or to the AMA account? So again, they don't need to know how to receive payment. Payments will be made automatically from the AMA. They will definitely be able to, in the future, log into their AMA member account and see the details of the payment, how much they were paid, when it was paid out, etc. I don't know if that prompts an email notification. Ali, I'm not sure if we know that. Yeah.
If any payment that comes out, well, either if it comes out by mail, then there's no email notification. If it comes out by EFT, there will be.
Another
Hi, I
great.
have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, it's Tanya. Hi. I just wanted to confirm, if a patient does not wish to be a part of our panel, how do we ensure? Is it just we don't validate their demographics, or?
So that's for panels, it depends on the EMR that you're in and the panel statuses. So in each EMR, the certain panel statuses go up.
Well, they
to
are still
CPAR.
an active patient. So we've set it up where all active patients are in our panel. But if someone just chooses not to be, she's still our patient, but she just doesn't want any information
flowing to Netcare.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you would probably have your encounters as well. So again, you would have to use the masking features within your EMR to customize that. And again, each EMR is slightly different, but Tanya, we can get you that information. And again, I'll do another plug for the Learned AMA courses. That content is in there as well.
Perfect.
And so it's EMR specific because yes, it just keeps us on our toes and making sure we're on top of everything. Thanks, Tanya, for that great question.
Does first come, first serve mean that there will be some physicians who do not get payments, as we expect so many to enroll in the upcoming months? I can try to answer this question. It seems like, so the 12 million, again, we didn't parse this out so that 100% of physicians would be able to receive the payments that we just outlined, but most of them will be, and we don't expect 100% uptake. And we expect that it will take quite a long time, 6 months, a year, maybe longer to get the $12 million down to zero. So most people that will sign up probably will get the payments. That's where we're going to continuously review the process, because we're going to keep looking at that pot and see how fast it's dwindling. But it would have to be getting very, very close to our goal of 80% plus live, and that's family medicine and non-family medicine specialists, for physicians to actually stop receiving the payments, meaning that the $12 million ran out. So the short answer is most people will get it. So if they're signing up in the summer or the fall, I don't think they're at risk of not getting their payments. If they're signing up in 2024, maybe. Definitely more risk there. So don't suggest that the money is infinite, that it's going to be around forever. Get them to sign up soon.
Yeah, the grant is for 2 years. And so it is my personal goal that we can have it bottomed out by the end of the 2 years, that we can extend if need be for a third year if Alberta Health approves that. But yes, I would like to see as many physicians paid across the province within the next 2 years as possible. And we'll provide updates about how that progress is coming along so that physicians can be aware. But we do know that there's complexity in the environment right now, as we talked about earlier, with EMR vendors being decommissioned and new EMR vendors coming on board. There is lots of going on, but yes, if there's one thing that you take away from our call today, hopefully it's that you hear that CII CPAR can provide benefits to your practice for you and your patients, and please sign up today. And there's resources here to help. You're not in it alone. Lots of physicians have gone before you and have signed up on this process already and are seeing the benefits in their practice every day.
How can we double check that we have the minimum number of the consult reports going up in the 3-month period? Like, will things be checked just one time or additional times?
So in the report that Alberta Health sends over to AMA, it'll say which physicians are live and above the threshold of the 30 in 3 months. Those that aren't, we're actually developing some outreach processes. This question has also come up on the family medicine side of, what if I don't have a panel administrator? How will I know that? Well, Alberta Health is able to provide us with that information, and then we're coordinating with the PCNs and clinics, that outreach, so that we can help you get above that threshold so that the physicians are eligible for their payments. So we've got 1 minute to go. If you need to drop off the call, feel free to do so. The presenters will stay online and answer any questions that you have. I just want to thank everyone again for coming out and taking time out of your busy days to hear about this exciting information. And if you have any questions, feel free to check out our website. Lots of good information on it as well. We can happy to answer your questions via email as well.